cigarettes, embezzled lipstick traces, an airline ticket to romantic places, a fairground painted swing. These foolish things remind me of you. A tinkling piano in the next apartment, those stumbling words that told you what my heart meant. Oh, how the ghost of you clings. These foolish things remind me of you.
Well, I started writing after I'd retired, mainly because to work full time and to write full time doesn't work, because it takes the writing. You need to set aside 6 or 7 hours every day, or 4 or 5 days a week at least, to get into it. To come home from work and then to try and start to write is just too much. So after I retired, I started to write. I had the idea for the book in my head for many, many years, but the opportunity came once I'd stopped full-time employment. So that's how I began my writing. Yes, The Drawing Room is my first novel. It's the first attempt at writing something. I found it quite exhilarating, hard work. I was writing for about 6 or 7 hours every day for about 4 or 5 days a week. And it took me from start to publication about 16 months to do. It kind of evolved. I had the main plot, the story and the beginning. I didn't really have an ending, but as I wrote the story evolved and it gradually grew, so that long before I got to the end I knew how it was going to end. But it's an interesting exercise, even if it goes no further than that. Well, it's about a group of young boys who bully and eventually kill another young boy, and the effect that has on their lives, on the perpetrator, on the lives of the perpetrator. So it kind of reinforces what everybody knows, and that is that bullying in whatever form is wrong, doesn't pay, and harms everyone. The person being bullied and the perpetrator. If they have any sort of conscience, eventually it'll come back and harm them too. And there's also, through the book, there's quite a romantic thread as well, but that's just a fictional story. Yes, The Drawing Room is partly based on factual events, things that did happen to me. About 15% of it is true, 85% of it is fiction. The parts that are true, at the beginning of the book, the main character, Callum, is described as coming from a poor family in England. He goes to a very poor school, very poorly educated. He joins the army as a young soldier. All that part of it is true. That's what happened to me. The bullying part, where the boy in the book, Stanley, is badly bullied, is true up to the point, of course, we didn't kill the boy, but we did injure him, and he was badly injured. That part of the story is true. The rest of it is total fiction, imagination. But that's what gave me the core of the book, was the bullying event that actually happened. That gave me a starting point, and I sort of worked backwards to a beginning and then forward to the end of the book. So yes, it's partly true, but mostly fiction. To get it into publication was, there are several ways to do that. What I did was, the first thing I did was I joined in the UK the Writers Guild. You pay a yearly fee. That gives you access to literary agents. I sent off extracts from the book, depending on what they wanted, to about 18 or 20 different literary agents. They're notoriously bad at replying. It takes months. And within about 6 months, I did have replies from most of them. They all rejected it, of course, but rejection is a common thing when you're writing anything. You've got to be prepared to accept rejection. So I thought, well, I'll go another route, which was self-publication. In other words, I paid a publisher to produce my book, which is the version that we have now. That publisher also put it onto Amazon to be bought as a paperback or a download, and of course you get the royalties from that. But getting it published and selling it are two completely different things. I mean, selling any book, when you think that on Amazon alone there are almost 5 million books, and to make yours stand out is extremely difficult. So those are the main routes for publication. But I'm going to go back to contacting more agents again, I think. But I think you need a lot of luck to get an agent to accept it. If once an agent accepts it, of course, they have access to the big buyers and the big distributors. So that is probably the best route to take, but it can be a long, arduous journey, and most writers don't get there. But you've got to accept that, So that, I think, is probably the only two ways really to publish. But the way I did it was costly, and to recover those costs could take a long time. But I don't want that. I found it an interesting exercise to do. So it took a long time, but it gave me it was a sort of a project, if you like, something to write. And at the end of the project, once you've started it, written it, edited it, I must have gone through it 25, 30 times to change parts, add parts, delete parts, make corrections. But once you've got the published copy of the book in your hand, you feel that you've actually achieved something. It's an achievement you've got there. Whether you can sell it or not is a different question altogether. I think over the last sort of 40, 50, probably longer years, it's not just film and television that have replaced reading. I think it started with radio, really, way back, and it's gradually eroded the amount of reading that the general public do, all of us do. Then came television, film, and then television. And I think we became lazier because that sort of entertainment is much easier. But now I think the main culprit of the decline in reading is not so much films and television. Nowadays, I blame video games, mobile phones, iPhones, smartphones. Everybody has the ability to download easier entertainment, if you like. Rather than read a book, it's easier to download a game and play a game. And I think that, more than anything, today, is to blame for, especially younger people, not reading so much. I mean, in the UK, I know that over the past 20 years or so, the decline in the use of public libraries has been tremendous, and a lot of them have closed simply because people are not using them. So I think the Xbox, the iPhone, the smartphone have got a lot to answer for. I think young people should be encouraged to read more, but that, I think, starts at school and with the parents. I think in schools, don't think they, from what I gather from schools for my grandchildren, they're not encouraged to read as much as people used to be. And I think in the home, I think the parents should encourage children to read more and spend less time on their Xbox and on their smartphone, downloading games, because that sort of entertainment is easy and I don't think it's as intellectually stimulating as reading a book. You know, reading a book stimulates your imagination more, I think, than a video game. So yeah, I think kids should be encouraged to read more. I think what you need to become a writer or an author is firstly determination, patience, and time. But of course you also need a vivid imagination, because it's very difficult to write one book because you've got a story, as I've done, is one thing, but some authors write 3 or 4 books a year. That must be extremely difficult. So you need a very good imagination to come up with the plot. You know, you need a start, a middle, and an end. If you can write those 3 things down, you can build a book around it. You know, so those are the things you need. But anyone who thinks that writing for a living is an easy way out is totally wrong. It's not an easy way. It's a very difficult thing to do. And those that succeed deserve their success. I think the essence of writing is you need a good plot, a good storyline, something that will make your reader want to turn the page. If you don't want to turn the page when you're reading the book, you're going to put it down. You're going to say, oh, I've done it, everybody's done it. You start reading the book, you think, I don't like this, it's rubbish, because it hasn't grabbed the reader's imagination. You need what they call in all sorts of selling is a USP, a unique selling point to your book. So whether your book is a romance or a murder, whatever, it needs something different about it. And finding that different gem is not easy. That's where your determination comes in. You have to search for that gem, and your imagination needs to be wild at times.
A thought goes through my mind, what a marvelous find you to make upon